You may start, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam, Rasulullah. Brothers and sisters, welcome to the continuation of our class of Concise presentation of Fiqh. Today is the Dhul Hijjah, 1424 after Hijri, 21st of June 2023. We're on episode 45, the prayer, part 26. Those of you who are following us in the book, we've got to page 233, which is the description of the funeral prayer.
Correct. Go ahead.
There are to be 4, 5, and even up to 9 takbirs made in the janazah prayer. Sometimes the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would do it one way, and sometimes he would do it another way. As for 4 takbirs, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu reported, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam announced the death of the ruler of Abyssinia on the day that he died. He then went out to the place of prayer and lined the people in rows and made 4 takbirs in the prayers.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ala. So you have just heard that we're going to be discussing the description of the prayer, and he started with that the janazah is to be prayed upon 4, 5, up to 9. I don't know if some of you had heard about this or have practiced this, that you could pray more than 4 takbirat. Has anybody did more than 4 takbirs? Put your hands up if you've done. Only me, huh? Right. I'm pretty sure that some of the students have prayed more than 4 takbirs. So janazah is not just 4 takbirs. It could be 5, 6, 7, and 9. I didn't say 8. 8 is included because we said 7 and we said 9. But because 8 has got no proof, but still because we have done 9, you're allowed to do the 8. But there is no proof. So each one, the 4 and the 5 and the 6 and the 7 and the 9, they have what? Proof from the Prophet. This proof is being mentioned for the 4 takbirat regarding An-Najashi. You know, Najashi is a title being given to any person who is a king of Abyssinia. It's called An-Najashi. As for his name, the one who had embraced Islam, it's called Ashama. Ashama is he's the one who embraced Islam. And nobody knew that he embraced Islam except for the Prophet ﷺ, because he had revelation from the Almighty Azza wa Jal saying to him that he had embraced Islam. Otherwise, nobody would know that he embraced Islam, because he never been seen prayed a prayer. He never seen saying the Shahada. He was buried in the Christian graveyard. He had a funeral, which is procession, which is a Christian one. He knew that he was a Muslim, except revelation told the Prophet ﷺ that he is a Muslim. Right. As for the 5, there's another one from the Rahman Nabi Layla. The 6 and the 7 also, we have another hadith. And also as for the 9, from Abdullah ibn Zubayr, but you have noticed here, they don't have for the 8. But as I said, the 8 will be included. So go to the following title now, please. Jazakumullah khair. We're going to go a bit fast. So yes.
The hands should be raised during the first takbir. Abdullah ibn Abbas said, the Messenger of Allah would raise his hands in the janazah prayer during the first takbir and then not repeat doing so.
Right. So the raising up the hands in the takbirat al-ula, first takbirah. First takbirah, we raise up the hands. As for the rest of the takbirat, there's no proof, which is authentic from the Prophet ﷺ. So he would do it in the first takbirat, and he says, he doesn't do it again. Abdullah ibn Abbas, in this one, he indicates that he did it only in the takbir al-ihram, but he did not do it in the other ones. Now,
after raising the hands, he would put his right hand over the left hand, wrist and forearm, and put them firmly upon his
just like you do the normal prayer. We don't want to read that one. So we're going to do after that after the takbir al-ura, he will.
After the opening takbir, he would recite Surah Al-Fatiha and another surah.
Have you ever done Fatiha and another surah, or just Fatiha? Okay, but tell me, put your hands up if you have recited in the first takbirah of the Salat al-Janazah, Fatiha plus a surah. Have you ever done that? 1 person here. 2 people here, mashallah. 3 people here, mashallah. 4 people here, alhamdulillah. Some people just stick to the Fatiha. The surah. You read the surah. So Talha ibn Abdullah ibn Auf, he said, yes, I have prayed.
I prayed the janazah prayer behind Ibn Abbas. He read Surah Al-Fatiha and another surah. He made it aloud until we could hear him. When he finished the prayer, I took him by his hand and asked him about that. He replied, I did it aloud in order to teach you that it is the sunnah and it is proper.
So he did it aloud for the sake of what? Teaching the people to know the what? The Fatiha is from the book. Because some people, this was... Oh, this your... right, khair inshallah. I would urge you to change the ringing tone, brother. طيب. Coming back to the topic, is basically that Abdullah ibn Abbas, he did it loud in order to show to those people who used to pray the janazah without the Fatiha. They thought Fatiha should not be read in the Salah of janazah. So he read it loud. And then he said, and when he was asked, why did you do this? He said, I done this because to know that it's sunnah. That means reading the Fatiha and haqq. And he would recite once silently after that.
It is to be read silently, as Abu Umama ibn Sahab
Listen now to Abu Umama ibn Sahab. What did he say?
The sunnah in the janazah prayer is to read after the first takbir Surah Fatiha silently.
Right. So when he says from the sunnah, that means from the Prophet. He can't say from the sunnah. To pray the janazah, that he recites in the takbir al-ula, with the recite al-Quran, with the al-Quran, which is Fatiha, how? Silently, yes?
Silently, and then one makes 3 takbirs and makes the salutations after them.
Then he makes the 3 takbirs and then the salutation of it. So the first takbir al-ihram, and after that 3 takbirs and taslim. Now, so he said from the sunnah, why are you saying there's 5 takbirs and 6 takbirs? Because we have other hadiths have mentioned that. Other hadith mentioned that the Prophet prayed 6, 5, 8. But it doesn't say that you're not allowed to recite more than 4 takbirs. And also Abdullah ibn Abbas, he had done it loud to teach. So if, for example, let's say in an area where people, they don't know what to do, they don't know what to recite, or it is known to them that there is no Fatiha in the prayer, so no harm for the Imam to recite it loud just to show them that there is a Fatiha. And loud here, you could just, by the microphones here, it's not loud as in reciting the Maghrib prayer. No, no. So the people can know what he's doing. Right. Now we come into Fadal, second takbir.
After the second takbir, one states prayers for the Prophet based on the aforementioned hadith of Abu Umama, in which one of the companions of the Prophet told him, the sunnah in the janazah prayer is for the Imam to make the takbir and then recite al-Fatiha silently to himself after the first takbir. Then he states prayers for the Prophet. He then makes sincere supplication to the deceased after the third takbir.
So we got second takbir, Salah al-Ibrahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. That's one of the forms of Salah al-Ibrahimi. Then he would say that after that, any takbirs after that, it is dua. Third, the fourth, it is 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? So all of those will be dua. Then he says at the end, لا يقرأ these takbirat.
Then he says prayers for the Prophet ﷺ. He then makes sincere supplications to the deceased after the third takbir. And he does not recite anything in either of those two. Then he makes a silent salutation.
He makes what? Silent salutation. That's a sunnah. I only have seen it implemented once. One of the Sheikh Al-Albani was there. I saw the prayer, the salutation had been done silently. So how have done silently? How can the people behind him would make the salutation? That's what it says called the mutaba. So the person with the imam would say it. So the ones behind will make salutation, the one they would see behind, and so on and so forth. So he made salutation sirra. And as I said, that's a sunnah which is I think has been dying. Very, very hard you find it. So the Prophet of Allah, he said, يُسَلِّمُ سِرًّا فِي نَفْسِهِ. Then the people behind will follow up. Go ahead. And this hadith, by the way, is in the Kitab al-Shafi al-Umm. Now.
Then he states the remaining takbirs and he makes sincere supplication to the deceased. As the Prophet ﷺ stated, if you pray over the deceased, make sincere supplication for him.
So the sincere is the most important. It's not just to pray the janazah. You want to make an effort to make a dua. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would respond to such a dua. So listen to this dua here that the Prophet of Allah had said.
One should supplicate for him according to what has been affirmed from the Prophet ﷺ. This would include what Auf ibn Malik narrated. He said that he prayed the janazah prayer behind the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, and he memorized the supplication that he made.
Allahumma ighfir lahu warhamhu, which means,
oh Allah, forgive him and have mercy upon him.
Wa'afihi wa'fu anhu.
Pardon him and excuse him.
Wa'akrim nuzulah.
Give him an honorable reception.
ووسع مدخله.
Make his grave wide.
واغسله بالماء والثلج والبرد.
Wash him with water, snow and ice.
ونقه من الخطايا كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس.
Cleanse him of sin as a white garment is cleansed of filth.
وأبدله دارا خيرا من داره.
Exchange for him an abode that is better than his present abode.
وأهلا خيرا من أهله.
And his family for a better family.
وزوجا خيرا من زوجه.
And his spouse for a better spouse.
وأدخله الجنة.
Enter into Jannah, paradise.
وأعيذه من عذاب القبر وعذاب النار.
Protect him from the punishment of the grave and the punishment of the fire.
Right, and then he said that this person said,
Oh, added, I wish that I had been that deceased person.
He wished that he was the dead person. Because the dua, Prophet, he made this dua for him. I wish I was the one who was dead. SubhanAllah. Because of the dua of the Prophet that he had heard. Right. Now, go ahead.
It's also sanctioned to make supplications between the final takbir and the salutations. Abu Ya'qub narrated that Abdullah ibn Abi Awfa stated, I witnessed it, and he made 4 takbirs over the deceased. Then he stood for a while, that is, they would supplicate. Then he said, do you people see me making 5 takbirs? They said, no. He said, certainly the Messenger of Allah ﷺ would make 4 takbirs. Then the person makes the 2 salutations.
This is the hadith, and some of the scholars dependent upon that they don't increase upon the 4 takbirs. But we say, man ya'lam hujja ala man la ya'lam. The person who knows has got a proof more than the one who hasn't got a proof. Meaning, if a person saw the Prophet of Allah prayed 4 takbirs, and another person saw him 5 takbirs, we don't say the one who said 4 takbirs, I didn't see him do anything more. It doesn't mean that the 5 takbir are not valid if there is somebody else had said it. Why? Because both of them are trustworthy. But this person saw the Prophet of Allah praying 4. Another person, another occasion where that person was not there, he saw him praying 5. It's like 2 people came out of the masjid. And somebody asked him, one, did you see Dr. Asif? That one person said no. Another person said yes. And both of them are trustworthy. Which one I will take? The one who yes or no? Of course, yes. Why? Because the one who said yes, he's got extra knowledge. The one who said no, maybe he didn't. He sit in a place, he didn't see him. He was in a corner, he didn't see him. Was the one who said yes, affirmative. So it's always al-muthbat muqaddam ala nafs. It's a principle. The one who affirms takes precedence over the one who negates. Okay? So the one who said 5, he affirms 5. The one who negates 4, he has got extra knowledge. Because he saw him, that person is trustworthy. He saw him did 5. That's a principle from the scholars. Right. Now, this is to show to you as well, there is as well dua between the last takbirah and the salutation, because we know that when you go to the haram, you always make what? Last takbirah is what? Takbir and then what? Salutation. Remember that? The 4th takbir, you don't make dua. You remember or not? The 4th takbir, you say, Allahu Akbar, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Remember? Yes? There's no dua. It's to show you that there is a dua. even between the takbirah and the last salutation. The last takbirah and the salutation, there is a dua. I can remember in Medina or Mecca, one of the shuyukh, I don't know him, mashallah, he follows the sunnah, the sheikh, from the shuyukh of the haram. He made between the last takbirah and the salutation a long pause. Never seen this before. It is for dua. He did it, and then never ever again. That's what he's been told off. Never ever again. He did it once, and remember, it's really long. Now he's been complaining against or something. They have to do certain madhab. خلاص madhab al-Hanbali. So he never again done it. Nah, fadl.
Then the person makes the two salutations similar to the salutations in the obligatory prayers, one to the right and the other to the left. This is based on the statement of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud.
So it is not just all the time is one salutation. That's what they say. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. That's it. So there's two salutations. Prophet of Allah.
Three actions did the Prophet perform and the people have left. One of them is the salutations in the Janazah prayer being the same as the salutations in the obligatory prayer.
Allah. This hadith is in Sunan al-Bayhaqi. He said three things that the people had left Prophet used to do. One of them is that to make salutation in the Janazah like the salutation in the prayer, which is what? 2 or 1. 2 and 1 as well. Because in the prayer you could do 1, you could do 2 as well, isn't it? There's 1 and there is 2. So the one who they left it is the one what? Which is the 2. They always do the 1. So here, making salutation, you make 1. Some of them, they don't do salutation, maybe? No, there is a salutation. So it is 1, like when you do a normal prayer, Assalamu alaikum. I don't know if you have prayed that prayer or not. I have to practice it, inshallah, with the people here, making them these in the sunnah. Assalamu alaikum. But we have to really alert them that this is the salah. Before, we don't want somebody to say, what is this deen? I never heard this before. And we have to teach the people. And then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum. It's got 4 versions. So the people need to know the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, and also it is permissible to use one salutation.
To state the salutation only once. This is based on the narration
permissible.
of Abu Hurairah.
Why? Because the Prophet
and who said the Prophet performed the Janazah prayer, made 4 takbīrs and only one salutation.
So one salutation. So this is like the prayer, a normal 1 salutation or 2 salutation. Alhamdulillah. Now coming to the following title.
It's not allowed to perform the Janazah prayer during the prohibited times of prayer.
So we have prohibited
necessity.
Prohibited times, the same with the prohibited times, if you remember, we discussed it during the prayer. What are the prohibited time before we start? Anybody? Prohibited times to pray. What sun is about rising? Sun is rising, yes. When the sun is rising until it's rising about 2 meters above the horizon. That means 15 minutes after rise. Then you could pray. Yes, also, that's one. Sunset, when sun is setting. Thirdly, meridian. Well, you know, Dar al-Hanafi Masjid, flashing clock. Don't pray. She's just before Dhuhr. That's meridian, yes. There's a 4th time as well in the normal prayer. If you prayed your Fajr, you can't pray until sun had risen. You know that? You prayed your Fajr, you can't pray any prayer until the sun had risen. So you got 4th time as well, 4th year as well. But here is that the Prophet of Allah, he said, go on, 3 hours. 3 hours. Uqba ibn Amir, radiallahu anhu.
Uqba ibn Amir, radiallahu anhu, said, there are 3 times of the day concerning which the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited us from praying and burying the dead.
So we've got 2 things: praying and also burying the dead. Okay, what are they?
When the sunrise first occurs until it rises above the horizon, during the high noon until the sun goes beyond the zenith,
which is meridian. No.
When the sun is leaning towards sunset until it sets.
Okay. So these are the 3 times. For those times, you're not allowed to pray the janazah. Now we're adding, and also not to bury. As when we bury, we're going to add another time. When we come to the burial, which is during the night. because we don't want to bury a person without making people to pray on him. Okay, they bury them. But if there is prayer, people to pray, there's no problem, inshallah. But anyway, this is the prohibited times for the Salat al-Janazah. And now we're coming to the virtues of Salat al-Janazah and following this Janazah. Fadl. Abu Hurairah narrates
that the Messenger of Allah said, whoever prays for the deceased but does follow the funeral,
does not follow it. No, does not. He who follows the Janazah does not follow it.
Yeah, does not follow the,
so he who prays upon the Janazah does not. English is wrong. So he who prays on the Janazah and does not follow it, then he will have one qirat.
And the one who follows it will receive 2 qirat.
So he who follows it, he will have 2 qirat. What is the 2 qirats?
He replied, the smaller the 2 of them is like the mountain of Uhud.
The smaller the 2 qirats is like the mountain of Uhud. Go ahead.
This virtue following the funeral procession is only for men and not for women. The Prophet prohibited women from following the funeral prior. However, this is a prohibition of discouragement only.
Means a dislike. It's not a prohibition, you're not allowed. Because it's not correct for you to go and follow or be mixing up with the men dinner. But, let's say that's her husband or her father or whatever is close, her son. And she follows, not mixing with the strangers and from far. Then no problem to follow the funeral. Now.
Atiyah stated, we were prohibited from following the funeral, but it was not made something strict upon us.
It's not a strict upon us. Don't go, it's better.
However, it's not allowed to follow the funeral via any means that contradict the Sharia.
Like, for example, shooting guns and cannons, what they do with the monarchs and they die. Or, for example, like, with the essence, the bakhur, what do you call that? Incense. And also Quran, the recitation of the Quran, and they do that in Pakistan. Quran, big, loud. Yeah, all of that. And the incense of the Christian, they do that. Burning incense now.
The narrated text mentioned 2 matters in particular. The first is raising the voices and crying,
which is called wailing. Number 2,
and following the funeral procession with the incense.
Incense, okay. Well, this
the
is
Prophet
Christian.
said, the funeral and procession is not to be followed in procession by wailing sounds of fire.
Also,
including this category is a raising of one's voice by reciting words of remembrance.
Like al-kalima tayyiba. Kalima tayyiba. Kalima. They say kalima. Is that their voice? Kalima, shahada, kalima, whatever it is. All of that's not correct. Go on.
In front of the funeral, as this is the bidah. This view is based on
Qais ibn Abbad.
This view is based on Qais ibn Abbad's statement that the companions of the Prophet would dislike for anyone to raise their voice during the funeral. Furthermore, by doing such an act, one is resembling the Christians, as they raise their voices by reciting the gospel.
They do the hymns and hymns. Somebody does hymns and all of that.
And words of remembrance in a melodic, mournful manner.
Like they make you cry. And which is worse?
Worse than that is what is being commonly done today in some Muslim lands in imitation of the disbelievers, wherein the funeral procession is led by people playing musical instruments in a sorrowful tone.
And what is this? Musical and all of that. And this is the tradition of the non-Muslims for the non-Muslims. The Muslim has to follow what the Prophet told them. So we don't follow with burning incense. We don't follow for music. We don't follow with, like cannons. And this is for the non-Muslims. It's their deen, but our deen is different. It's not correct from your deen to go and imitate their deen. It's like themselves as well. For them, it will be incorrect to follow our as well. For them, in their eyes, they see us as wrong. They say, what is this? They have to make a proper, like funeral. That's what they call it, proper. It's just normal. I'll tell you what, how many people embrace Islam from the simple way of burial to our kings, like when King of Saudi Arabia, King Khalid, I don't know if it's on YouTube until now, but it was before. Sometimes the YouTube push it down. The more than hundreds of people embrace Islam, from those who work in Saudi Arabia, Chinese, and all of those. When they saw the king is buried like normal, in a normal cemetery. You see that? Yes. In a normal cemetery, the dust, nothing. There's no shrine, there's no music, there's just normal. And they buried him so quickly. They didn't wait for other kings to come and arrive and all of this, rubbish. And the guy has to be put in the freezer until they arrive. Sometimes they freeze him for 2-3 days for them to come. Straight away they buried him. And this is, alhamdulillah, is only done in a few, very few lands. Lands of Tawheed. Tawheed, Prophet Sallallahu was buried like normal burial. Companions were normal burial. So why do we need to have to put our burials different from them? You look at the Baqi al-Gharqad. Subhanallah, everything's the same. You don't know the Sahaba is there, everything's the same. Nothing, no distinguishing. There's no such thing. Umar al-Khattab has got, like, for example, a big shrine. Or for example, Abu Bakr, no. You have, for example, other companions, like the ones who are being buried there, like Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu. It's not there. There's nothing there. Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. Aisha radiallahu anha. All of them, there's no specific graves for them. Alhamdulillah. Simple. Now, are we coming to?
It's obligatory to move quickly with the janazah procession, but not to run or jog.
It's not running, it's jogging, it's just quick. So it's not correct to slow down your cars. We see sometimes, the people in the thing, slowing down. It's 30 miles an hour, he does 20. Against the sunnah and against the traffic law. Because it's congestion. Allah musta'an. So this guy is going to be incurred, the guy who's carrying the janazah, and the guy was dead. Allah musta'an, he's going to be having curses from people. They blocked the road and they understand me, they blocked it. And it's not from the sunnah. Okay. So we drive 30 miles an hour. I'm not saying to drive 50 and go quickly. But drive at normal speed. But to make it slow, that's not against the sunnah and against the traffic.
The Prophet ﷺ said, hurry in performing the janazah, for if he were a pious person, you will take him to goodness.
Because he can't wait. You want to go to goodness. Why delay him? He's good. And if
he was other than that, it's evil that you are removing from your neck.
So you're getting rid of him if he's evil. Come on, quickly. And both ways, if it's good, waiting for him, why are you delaying him? Quick. And if he's bad, get rid of him quick. Quick on both sides. And even some of the hadith says, the janazah would say, qaddimuni, forward me, I want to go. Qaddimuni. Now,
it's permissible to walk in front, behind, the right, of the left of the funeral.
So if you walk in, no problem to walk in front of the janazah, to the cemetery, or behind it, or on the right or on the left, as long as you are close to it. Except for,
however, those who are riding on some mode of transportation.
Mode of transportation or camels, anything. The riding was at the time of the camels. Then he will. He has to go where? To go where? His mountain is to go behind it. Doesn't it say that?
He narrated that the Messenger of Allah said, the rider is to be behind the funeral procession, while the one walking may be wherever he wishes.
Can I just ask you, when you said it is to be close to it, except, read from there. Read the sentence.
However, those who are riding on some mode of transportation should be behind it.
That's the one you didn't read it. No, I didn't hear. Okay, like Allah. You should. I don't know why you read it or not. Now.
However, it's best to be behind it, as is implied in the Messenger of Allah's words.
If you're in a car, you should not go in front when you have a shortcut. Do you understand me? So be behind. So you're in a car, and the funeral is in a car. Don't be in front of the cut shortcut. Take a shortcut, but don't be in front of it. Be behind the janazah. That's the sunnah. So the best thing is to be behind and close.
This is supported by the statement of Ali radiallahu anhu, who said, walking behind it, the funeral procession, is preferred to walking in front of it, like the prayer of a man in congregation is preferred to his prayer that he said alone.
So if you're praying on Jama'ah, very rewardable. If you're praying alone, you're going to be not as rewardable. Same thing, if you to walk behind it, the reward will be in comparison to the reward if you walk other than behind it is the same as a difference. So behind it will get more reward. Like praying Jama'ah. But Aisha radiallahu anha, she said,
what's to be said when entering or passing by the grave sites? Aisha radiallahu anha said, I said, what should I say to them, O Messenger of Allah? He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said,
السلام عليكم أهل الديار من المؤمنين والمسلمين يرحم الله المستقدمين منا والمستأخرين وإنا إن شاء الله بكم للاحقون. Meaning,
say, peace be upon the inhabitants of these places, from the believers and the Muslims. May Allah have mercy on those who preceded us and those who will come after us. Allah willing, we shall be joining you.
So if you pass by the graves or you enter the graveyard. Also,
Sulaiman ibn Buraidah narrated from his father, who said, the Messenger of Allah taught us that if we go to the graves, we should say the following: Assalamu alaikum, أخذ ديار من المؤمنين والمسلمين وإنا إن شاء الله لاهقون أسأل الله لنا ولكم العافية.
MashaAllah.
Peace be upon you, O inhabitants of the graves, from believers and Muslims. We, Allah willing, shall be joining you. I ask Allah for us and for you well-being.
Well done. Right. So we got now up to what time is the Isha? 11:15 today? 11 o'clock.
The Adhan is 54 for the Jama'ah.
Right. So, okay, the burial. Right. Burial, we can do it later on. If you want to do it, start with it, no problem. Right, let's just go with the burial and then we'll give you time because we've got plenty of time. Yeah. So let's go with the burial. Yeah.
The burial. It's obligatory to bury the deceased.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to now, the doctor, I'm going to make him relax a bit more so I can really push quickly a bit. It is compulsory to bury the deceased even if it's to be a disbeliever, meaning even if you are in the war and you have time, you have to bury them. The Prophet of Allah, he buried those who were killed in the Battle of Uhud, and they were war criminals. They were war criminals like Abu Jahl, Umayyah ibn Khalaf. Those are bad people. But he buried them. What he said, he threw them in the well. Because we're not allowed to leave them for the animals to snatch them or the vultures to take them or hyena to rip them off. Okay, so we bury them even to this day. We have to be buried. Ali ibn Abi Talib, when his father died, Abu Talib, he's a kafir, uncle of the Prophet. So he asked the Prophet, what should I do? He said, go and bury him. He didn't tell him to go wash him, not to pray upon him, not to shroud him, because all of that is only for the Muslim. But he told him to bury him because it is believer. And the sunnah is to make the burial in the cemetery. It's not to make it in the back of your garden. Some people, they do. Prophet ﷺ used to make the burial in the baqiyah. There's no one had said from the Salaf predecessors that he had made his own cemetery in his house. Okay, so cemetery is for everybody. Unfortunately, some of the Muslim countries, I'm not going to mention the country, but it is, they have made like each family, each tribe has got their own cemetery. Yeah, you got that? Yes. I didn't mean Pakistan, by the way. I meant another country. Alhamdulillah. And as for the Prophet of Allah himself, that's something which is a specialty to the Prophet of Allah and all the prophets, that is to be buried where they die. So wherever they die, this is their spot for burial. So that means the Prophet has to be buried and to die in a good place. And that's a sign of the Prophet. So if he dies in a toilet, he's not a Prophet. Because he's to be buried where? In the toilet. And you understand what I'm saying? So any person claims to be a prophet, and if he dies in a toilet, the Prophet's sunnah is to be buried where you die. There is no prophet had died except in a good place, as from the prophethood. the Aisha radiallahu anha, she narrated that Allah Azza wa Jalla never would pass death upon any prophet except in the place where he's going to be. He loves for him to be buried. Allah loves him to be buried there, so Allah will pass his death upon him in that place. So, Prophet of Allah, he died on the bed of Aisha, and that's why they removed the bed and they dug underneath, and they put him there. So they removed the bed and they dug him underneath, and that Allah wanted him, loved for him to die where? In the room of Aisha, on the bed of Aisha radiallahu anha. Also, we have the martyrs. The martyrs is to be buried not where they die, but where they are killed. So it's not, for example, this person is like a battlefield. This is a massive person died here. We don't dig him like he's like a prophet. But let's say that we designated a grave yard for all of these people who died next to this area, here or that spot. You understand me? So the shaheed is not to be moved to the normal cemetery. That's why the martyrs of Uhud, you find them where? Away from the Baqiyah, Jannat al-Baqarqat, you know, Jannat al-Baqiyah. Call it Jannat al-Baqiyah. It's called Baqiyah al-Baqarqat. Okay, so they were buried away from that place because they were died there. One of the ones who was being killed in that battle is Subhanallah. Let me see. Can't in my mind. Allahumma sallam. Khair inshallah. It will come to my mind. One of the companions who died, I don't know, one woman, she came and she wanted to take him, and they wanted to, yes, in the Battle of Uhud, is actually some of the companions wanted to shift their dead people from where they were killed in the Battle of Uhud and to take them to the cemetery in Medina. So the caller was being designated by the Prophet of Allah. He made a call. All people who have been killed here is to be buried there. So they returned them back to buried where they were killed. طيب. That's here, it says here actually, yes. Yeah, it was actually, the hadith is there, alhamdulillah. There's a caller, yes. So alhamdulillah, memory is there, mashallah. Now, it is not permissible to bury in the following circumstances. Number one, hadith Uqba ibn Amr, which is the same one, 3 times. Yes, which is the same one. Sunrise, sunset, and the 7th. And number 2,
Jabir radiallahu anhu said the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned a man from among his companions who died, been wrapped in a shroud not long enough to cover his whole body, and was buried during the night.
During the night. So the Prophet
sallallahu alaihi wasallam reprimanded the people for burying the man during the night.
So they were reprimanded by the Prophet. Okay, so he said,
this should only be done when it's a necessity.
Yes. So if it's a necessity. Now, why is the whole thing is being prohibited here? It's to increase the number of people to pray upon him. So if you pray during the night and there's nobody to pray upon him, it's not correct. But these days, alhamdulillah, okay, the ones who are even Isha prayer, we have lots of people coming to the Isha. If they are coming to the Isha, of course, not in the non-Muslim countries. And even the Muslim countries, not except for Saudi Arabia. You know, the Isha is open, Fajr is open. But some of the Muslim countries, they will not allow you to, for example, bury during the night. They will tell you to wait until the following Fajr. Okay, the Fajr or even Dhuhr. Okay. And in this country, sometimes you know, allow you for 2-3 days to bury him. True or not? Till the doctor sees him, as you call him. Doctor makes the go ahead. The coroner? Coroner, yeah? Is that the one? Who gives the
certifies.
Yeah, certifies. Yeah, what's his name? The coroner or his own? Doctor, just okay. Just a doctor.
The coroner is when the cause of death is not known.
Okay. Okay. Right. We learned something today. The coroner and the doctor. Right. Now, also for the grave, it needs to be.
It must be. It must make the grave deep, wide, and excellent.
Wide and excellent. So we don't really want to start now making more space by making the grave smaller and smaller, which we can see these days. The graves are very small. You know, the graves which are these days, the graves are just limited to the person, isn't it? And that's why the people have to put them in a rope and slide them down. That's not correct. It's supposed to be a bigger grave where people can go and take the person and lay him down. Okay. So we don't want to save lands. The grave is to be a bit bigger. But now these days, just according to the length of the person. Okay, so it's about 2.5 meters maybe in terms of lengthwise. And in terms of width, I don't know, it's about less than a meter, isn't it? Less than a meter. Less than a meter. The grave is supposed to be 1.5 meters, like this table or more. So that people can go inside and carry the deceased. But these days we have to carry him or put him in vertically. Allah musta'an. No. So Prophet ﷺ, he said, احفروا, dig, وأوسعوا, widen, وأعمقوا, make it deep. Yes?
Yeah, he replied, dig, making them wide, deep, and excellent. Bury 2 and 3 in one grave.
That's in the Battle of Uhud.
Put the one who knew the most Quran ahead. My father, and the reciter was of the transmitter of the Hadith, Hisham ibn Amr. He said, my father was a third of 3 in a grave that he knew the most Quran.
So he would put forward. So in the Battle of Uhud, even it's a battle, even it is, digging the graves there is not really easy task. Prophet Allah, he made the graves wide. But because there are 70 companions that died, 72 were killed as about martyrs. Prophet Allah, he said, put not just one, so to make them less graves. Because this is a necessity here. Put 1 or 2, even 3 in the grave. 1 or 2, 3. And the one who is next to the side of the Qibla is the one close to the Qibla, is the one who's close to the Quran. So 1 or 2, 3, not on top of each other. No. 1, behind him 1, and behind him 1. So let's say this is the Qibla and this is the burial. It's going to be, this is the head. So the first one will be most Quran next to the Qibla. The one next to him is the one less, and the one behind him is one less. That's as I said, Hamza radiallahu anhu was buried on his own. Mus'ab ibn Umayr, he was buried on his own. طيب. Now, what type of grave do we have? We have shaq, we have lahad. The graves that we have here is shaq. If we can do lahad, it will be better, but not in control because of land. What is the shaq and what is the lahad? Imagine that we're going to bury somebody and this is the grave here. Okay. Shaq is that to dig this area and then put the deceased here and then cover him and then put the sand, which is the way we do. Lahad is different, which is if you've seen it in Baqi' al-Gharqad. So this is, let's say, this is the side. Yeah, this is the Qibla side. Okay. This is the, imagine this is the Qibla. Okay, so the grave, we're going to dig it here. So what they do, they dig here. That's the grave, they're going to bury it. They dig here, and then they dig a niche. Okay, after they go down about 1.5 meters, they put a niche, like a window, something like this, into that, and it will be underneath. So this land is level, the same thing. And the one which is being dug is there, and they put the sand here, and he is into that niche. That niche is about, I would say, less than 1 meter. Less than 1 meter in this way. So this way and this way. And that one is called al-lahad. This is how the Prophet was buried. And this is better if the land can take it, because not each land can take it. Some of the land are fragile, they collapse. So this one will not hold, go on top of the deceased, which is not correct to do it. Right. And this was at the time of the Prophet of Allah, when they were, basically differing between each other, how they bury the Prophet of Allah. So they've sent to 2 people who are in charge of digging. One, he is specialized in shaq, another one specialized in lahad. The one who specialized in lahad, he was a bit faster. So Allah willed for the one who's the lahad is to take the privilege of digging the grave for the Prophet of Allah. So that's why the sunnah. And also Abdullah ibn Abbas, he said, Al-lahad lana wa shaq li ghayrina. Al-lahad is for us, shaq is not for us. The one who bring him down into the grave are the family of the deceased. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأُولُو الْأَرْحَامِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلَىٰ بِبَعْضٍ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. The ones who are next of kin, they have more priority to each other in the book of Allah. Also, Ali ibn Abi Talib, he said, and I want you to say the hadith before. Yeah? You follow it, yes? The hadith says, Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali. I'm just before the next title. We've done this verse.
Furthermore, Ali narrated, I watched the Messenger of Allah. I went to him and I expected to find what one normally sees among the dead, but did not find any such thing. The Messenger of Allah وسلم, was good in appearance, both alive and dead. Only 4 people took part.
Who are they? His family.
Burying him.
Ali,
Al-Abbas,
Fadl,
Salih.
Salih. All of them are related to the Prophet. Salih, he is the Mawla. Mawla means the emancipated slave. It's a slave being not they call it emancipated. That means he's been set free by his master. And because of his emancipation, his loyalty goes to his master. The loyalty goes to his master. It's like he is from the family. He's from the family. Salih. So we got these 4: Ali, Al-Abbas, Al-Fadl, wa Salih. Now, so they made lahm with the Prophet of Allah sallallahu.
Now, a niche was dug for the Messenger of Allah and bricks were placed next to him.
Okay. Now we'll stop here. Is that okay? Yes. And it is permissible for the husband because we still have got a lot to finish for this burial. Unless you want to have a question, let's finish. Q&A. Okay. Let's have Q&A.
Brothers, do you want to start with the questions? Yeah, brothers have a question. You mentioned that you can bury one on top of each other, or
no, next to each other. You can't bury one on top of each other. It's not actually a bus of double decker, top of each other. It has to be next to each other. Now, but that is, as I said, in case of necessity. Normally, because the case is best to put each one in his grave. And when you put each one after the other, you put like a separator between them. Now,
after the burial, any special prayer?
After the burial, we haven't finished after the burial, but we will answer the question. When we finish the burial, there is no such thing that there is a specific dhikr of Allah, but the following takes place. Number 1 is the sunnah of throwing 3 throws onto the head side. So after it's finished, 3 throws next to onto the head without saying anything. And also to make dua, which is not in congregation, each on his own. Stay there as much as you can, make dua. Put your dua towards the Qibla. You could put the grave between you and the Qibla. Make dua as much as you can to the deceased. Because the Prophet of Allah, he said, Salu li akhikum al-tathbit fa innahu al-ana yusal. Ask that Allah will affirm him in the question, because it's going to be a question. Ask Allah will give him the proper answers, give him affirmance. And he's affirmed in the grave because he's been questioned. And that is the supplication that you do. Now, تفضل يا زهرة. You have a question from upstairs? Zuhra?
Got 2 questions.
Assalamu alaikum. My question is off topic.
No, it has to be the topic. Abu Yusuf? Topic Abu Yusuf? Okay, nobody's topic here. Any topic here?
Sure, is it? Oh.
Abu Yusuf.
Is it a sin on the relatives that ship the dead bodies from, let's say, UK to the person's origin, especially if the person hasn't declared it in his will that he wants to be buried in the land that he's died?
Okay, is it a sin that the people ship, or the person, I call him ship and shift, ship him from the place where he died to a place like homeland? Okay, first of all, let's just declare the following. That if there is a graveyard for the Muslim people in any land where the person dies, we're not supposed to take him away from that land. So the only possibility for you to take that person to bury him somewhere else, that there is no Muslim cemetery. And of course, in this country, we have hundreds, to say thousands, of graveyards for the Muslims. But there are graveyards which are better than the others. For example, Garden of Peace here, just for the Muslims, better than having a mixing. That is for the Muslims. The Jews, they have their own. The Jews, they have their own cemetery as well. So if it is the case, there is a cemetery here, we're not allowed to ship this person to whatever land. If he said it in his will, we're going to be sin to fulfill such a will, because the will is haram to be fulfilled if it is against the laws of Allah. But if he did not say in his will, and his family shipped him, and yet he knows that this was going to take place if he dies, and he did not put in his will, I don't want to be shipped, he's still going to be sinned as well, along with those who had shipped him. Because he knows that these people are going to ship him home. So he's put in his will, I don't want to be shipped, I want to be buried in such and such, or where I die, if it's a Muslim cemetery. I don't want to be shipped anywhere. You'll be amazed for the following which took place. That somebody had died not far away from here, in a Muslim country, okay, in Pakistan. And his wife shipped him from Pakistan to here. I know the people. Allah understand. They want him to be buried there in Muslim land, buried here. That is amazing. No, driving Mecca to Pakistan is not to be shipped to a Muslim country. But from a Muslim to a non-Muslim, amazing. I haven't seen yet a person dying in Mecca shipped to here. If you have heard about this, please tell me. Let me put it in the Ajaib al-Dunya Sab'a. The most 7 amazing things.
There was one. There has been.
What? Madin Mecca being buried here?
Sure, there was one last year.
Allah.
Maybe our memory is going down. I'm sure there was one in Maiden. There was.
No? From Maiden.
There was one.
Allah musta'an, ya Rabbi. Well, there is no place to be buried there?
Families here.
Allah musta'an. Were they going to open the grave and look at it? There, the Muslim people pass it by, pass it salam.
Yeah, that leads to another question, which is a common, it's become a ritual now. So there's 2 aspects. So after the ghusl, either after the ghusl or after the janazah prayer, the people line up to see the face. And there's that one. And then the second one is delaying the burial when people are coming from afar to come and see the face, or they stop the burial at the graveyard to open the coffin to look at the face.
No problem to look at the face as long as it is before the prayer. So the prayer of the Dhuhr can start, then after that the janazah. So before that the people came and looked, no problem. But after the prayer of the janazah, to go and ship him upstairs, for the sisters to look at him, or downstairs for other people to look at him, or some people have a last farewell look, or to stop him, like you said, while he's going, or even in the graveyard, or all of that is not from the Sunnah. You are against the Hadith. You must hurry. So when you stop him, is it you hurrying up or you slowing? Yes, we understand for the prayer, because the prayer you can't bury him before the prayer. But once you pray, boom, quick, the janazah, bury him. But before the prayer, no problem. For the Prophet ﷺ, he had been uncovered, and before he was buried, Abu Bakr came and kissed him between his eyes, and no.
And the other one, with the first takbir, is there any hadith on the recital of al-istiftah? That's the one for love.
There's no dua al-istiftah in Salat al-Janazah.
Straight into Fatiha.
Yeah, so there's good thing to listen. You should have really pointed that out. That there's no dua al-istiftah. Straight away from takbirat al-ihram to isti'adah to Fatiha and a surah. No.
The silent salutation, that won't work if we've got multi-story building and
it will work.
how would you know that?
The sigh, the people start talking.
Downstairs,
Yeah, and downstairs I've said that that is an exception. I'm just saying. Okay. If there is something like this, we will do Salam alaikum. Salam alaikum. It's audible, but it's
you pre-warn the people that when you hear like a long silence.
That's what I'm just saying. But I'm just saying, if it's second floor, third floor, then we improvise something to solve this matter.
We've got the screens.
Yeah, I've got screens, whatever. Anyway, but I'm just saying, I doubt it. You're going to implement this soon. I doubt it. It's very hard. Alhamdulillah, the Sunnah is being implemented now that we don't recite on the janazah loud. Do you understand? We don't recite on the janazah. Alhamdulillah. We recite now just like silently. Alhamdulillah. طيب. The graveyards, you take your shoes off. We haven't really talked yet about the graveyard. As long as it is between the graves and it's not harmful. But if there is roads, like some of the graveyards, if you go to the Baqi al-Gharqad, there is, the roads which is route to take you to the graves. But once you want to go to the grave itself, you have to go to the sand. That's where you put your shoes there and you go onto that sand barefooted. That's the sunnah, not sunnah as well. The Prophet of Allah is actually told him off, that person, he saw him with his shoes. Ya sahib as-sabtiyatayn, ikhla as-sabtiyatayn. You're the one who's got these two shoes, take them off. So that's the sunnah which is well being buried, being revived, except for those people who are student knowledge. So if you are able to do that, and as I said, if it's not possible because of the mud, because of the thorns, if it's thorns, yeah. But if there is roads in between the graves, I don't have to take my shoes off. It's only when you are in between the graves themselves.
Sheikh, we mentioned the takbirs you raise a hand only on the first. Is it impermissible to raise on the other three?
Okay. So basically the sunnah of the Prophet that has been narrated from him, it is to raise up your hands only in the first takbir. Just like the first takbir of the Eid. You don't raise up your hands in the following 7 takbirs in the first rak'ah or the following 5 takbirs in the second rak'ah. Now, why do we have ikhtilaf? It's to do with Hadith Abdullah, that he had raised up his hand in the rest of the takbirat, he himself. This hadith is not authentic, but the authenticity of it is in debate between the scholars. The one who makes it authentic, then he follows it. The one who does not make it authentic, he does not follow it. And the one who is making it authentic, or Shaykh al-Albani says, if you make it authentic as well, and if you believe Allah ibn Umar would not do such a thing, except that he saw the Prophet of Allah, then he do it. So, Prophet of Allah, he did not do it. Because if you remember the hadith, it says, and he only did that in the hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas, in Takbir al-Ihram. And he did, walam ya'ud. He did not do it. Walam, he did not return back to do the raising of the hands after the first Takbir. Okay, so that's an extra addition. He said, when you did not do that. So, there's no other hadith which says the Prophet of Allah raised up his hands. It's only Abdullah ibn Umar, he did it himself, and the authenticity of it is in question. Now, by the way, Abdullah ibn Umar, he did so many things, not so many, number of things which is not being approved to be from the Prophet of Allah, because he improvised, he didn't know. But if he knows something, he's the best one. Now, Fadal. If you wash your body, excess hair. No, you're not allowed to cut any mustache or any underarms or any. You're not allowed to do that. No. No. You're not allowed to go and cut nails and where are we going to be? We're taken to a saloon here. You just bury him. Wash him. You're not. Could comb his hair. Combing his hair, yes. Right. Well, go to now the ones who's got questions about the subject, please put your hands up. The one who hasn't got the subject, just wait. So I ask Zuhra, you got a question here? And Antonio. Okay, Ahmed, have you got a question about the subject?
Jazakallah khairan, Shaykhana. Our sister wants to know, is it from the sunnah to stand up when you see a funeral taking place, a funeral procession?
No, it is not from the sunnah to stand up when you see a funeral. That was at the beginning. That was at the beginning. The Prophet of Allah did that. But later on, he didn't do it at all. Faisal.
Sheikh, you said if someone missed the janazah, right, he can go to the graveyard and offer the salah in the graveyard. Is there a time limit for this? I know Ibn al-Qayyim said as long as the body has not been decomposed. Is that a sound opinion?
Allahu A'lam. Allahu A'lam. This is the scholars have differed because the Prophet of Allah, he had offered Salat al-Janazah again on the martyrs of Uhud 8 years after. It was the year 10 after Hijrah. 8 years after, you're telling me that the body was fresh? It's absolutely gone completely. The piece of land there. Saudi Arabia, it's only 7 years, there will be nothing left. Because of the land decomposes the body so quickly. So 8 years, and it's like a muwadda, means saying farewell to them. So Allahu A'lam, I would say that to pray the janazah on a person who is after a while, after long, Allahu A'lam. I'm not really sure that how long. Now.
There has to be a congregation. It's not a single person can just go and pray.
No, it's no problem. Single person can pray if he hasn't prayed. Because the Prophet of Allah, he was not aware of the death of this woman who used to clean the masjid. If you remember the hadith that we talked about. And he went to the graveyard and he prayed. And there was some people who did not pray, prayed with the Prophet. And even some people who prayed already joined the Prophet ﷺ. So Prophet Allah, when he offered the prayer in Uhud, he was on his own. Now, Allahu A'lam. I'm having got really a sort of solid ground to say what is decisive regarding this issue. Fadal ya Zuhra.
I'd like to know if the following story is true. Abdullah bin Mubarak, he met this lady, and whenever he asked her a question, she replied with the verse of the Quran.
Allahu A'lam. What's the benefit of that? I mean,
It's in a book, and I saw a sister reading it, so I don't know whether it's
Abdullah Mubarak is
authentic
not
or
a
not.
companion, nor he is from the followers. Okay, nor he's from the followers of the followers. So Abdullah Mubarak is in the era of Imam Ahmad and all this. So I mean, there's no we don't hook onto him our deen. So if a person is being asked a question, and every time he's asked a question, then he would just come up with an answer from the Quran. I think this is a bid'ah. So if I say to him, how are you, brother? Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Imagine. I think there's something wrong with his brain, this guy.
It wasn't him answering, it was the lady answering.
I'm just saying, the lady, there's something wrong. No, it's not him. But that is to champion what is the story is like to champion the lady. Go to Ismail, please. Father Ismail. Ya Ismail. You have a problem, technical problem. Can't unmute yourself? No, because Ahmed is in control. Right, Abu Yusuf, we have asked the question now. Subhanakallah bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.